Muy buenas tardes a todos y a todas desde el Instituto Cervantes de Manchester, Cervantes de Leeds. Estamos muy ahora realmente de un valor extraordinario. El profesor Terence Dooley, que con mucha pasión, como siempre es la literatura y la poesía muy especialmente, ha traducido y editado la obra de 10 poetisas españolas contemporáneas. ¿Qué podemos decir de la poesía? Sería para hablar durante días, si me permiten. Pero sí que podemos muy brevemente decir que el papel de las poetisas en la literatura española es fundamental, no siempre reconocido como debiera, pero ¿cómo nos podríamos imaginar nuestra literatura, nuestra cultura sin figuras como Ida Vital, el premio Cervantes de literatura, Gabriela Mistral o las clásicas Teresa de Ávila? La literatura, la poesía hecha por mujeres cada vez afortunadamente tiene mayor presencia, y en este sentido esta presentación de poesía y de poetisas españolas creemos que es muy importante para la labor que realizamos desde el Instituto Cervantes. Welcome to Instituto Cervantes Manchester on Instituto Cervantes Leeds in our YouTube channel. We are very glad to be here this evening for the online book launch of the 10 contemporary Spanish women poets, edited and translated by Terence Dooley, thank you Terence, and published in Sherman Books 2020. This book is the first anthology of Spanish contemporary women poets to appear in the United Kingdom and represents a good opportunity to feature the poetry from Pilar Adón, Marta Asunción Alonso, Graciela Baquero, Mercedes Cebrián, María Eloy-García, Berta García Faet, Erika Martínez, Elena Medel, Miriam Reyes, and Julieta Valero at the Instituto Cervantes Manchester. The editor and translator of the book is Terence Dooley. Thank you, Terence. He's a prolific translator and contemporary Spanish poetry. Also, as a poet, he has published in several magazines, both in the United Kingdom and in Spain. Last February, we were pleased to launch one of his works here, The Streets Where to Walk is to Embark, Spanish Poets in London, edited by the poet Eduardo Moga. Also important to mention, the event is hosted by Diana Cullell. Thank you very much, Diana, for being there, who is professor of Spanish studies at the University of Liverpool, specialized in Spanish and Catalan literature. Finally, I do not want to forget to mention that the event will be featuring British poets like Katrina Naomi, Clare Pollard, Abigail Parry, Nell Leyshon, and Maura, along with singer Alice Zawadski. Thank you very much, all for being there. We are very pleased. I underline again that it's very important for Instituto Cervantes to organize and to have events like this. Thank you very much. Then I give you the word in this moment to Diana Cullell. Thank you again.
Hello, good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the Instituto Cervantes in Manchester for giving us all this amazing opportunity tonight. So it's a pleasure for me to host an event like this. As Pedro said, I teach Spanish poetry, so this event tonight is just perfect, and I hope that everyone is as excited as I am to listen to the poets in their original version, but also in the translation into English. So we agreed that I won't talk a lot about the book. I will say a few words, but I wanted to actually talk to Terence about the book and ask him a few questions so that we might understand a bit better the aims and the objectives behind this translation before we go on to listen to the poets. I hope everyone realizes how amazing it is, what an amazing opportunity for all of us to listen to all the poets who are part of this anthology. So it's not just, you know, we managed to get a couple of them on board. No, they are all here. So it is fantastic to be able to listen to them. So it's an enormous pleasure to be presenting and hosting the event about this book. As you know, it is a real luxury to have a translation of this quality of Spanish poetry into English. Spanish contemporary poetry does not get translated as much as it should. And obviously a translation like this makes it available to a wide range of audiences. And we cannot highlight enough the importance of this, especially to have 10 women poets translated into English, and contemporary poets at that. So, you know, it's easy to find translations of poets who have been dead for 3 centuries, but it's not the same to find contemporary poets being translated at the moment. Carlos from the Instituto Cervantes will be very familiar with the problem we had a few months ago when we ran a poetry course online and we couldn't get hold of translations of contemporaries, certain contemporary authors that we were looking for. So it is a fantastic opportunity to have something like this. And it showed that there is a massive public interested in reading Spanish poetry in translation. And obviously, bilingual anthologies like this make the texts available in both languages, which is always an advantage. It's not just a translation, but the readers can go to the original version as well. So, yes, we will just, I think, go to my questions from Terence. Pedro introduced Terence already, so I'm not going to say much about him, just that it is a pleasure to have his translations of a Spanish poetry into English, a very prolific translator who has translated multiple authors into English and has, is it five translation books for
Shieldsman, yes, yeah. This is the 5th, yes.
Oops, sorry, I think the connection.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yep, are we?
Yes, I think the connection seemed to drop for a second. So, Terence, can you tell us why did you feel the need to translate and edit 10 contemporary Spanish women poets? How did that come about? How did that happen, that you managed to find a project like this?
Well, I've been translating Pilar Adón and Mercedes Cebrián ever since I started translating. And I hadn't been able to get many of their poems published in magazines like Modern Poetry in Translation, Poetry London, Long Poem Magazine, and The High Window. Then a few years ago, I did the subtitles for a witty documentary short called Se dice poeta y no poetisa, in which a group of women poets speak of their difficulty in overcoming the dismissive stereotype of the poetess, in being admitted in equal terms to the poetry world. They mention influential anthologies, publishing houses, prizes, which have been entirely a male preserve, with a token woman only included. Among the poets in that film are 4 of our poets tonight. Miriam, Erika, Elena are in it. I've also just finished, as was mentioned earlier, Eduardo Moga's anthology Spanish Poets in London. And he complained of how difficult it was to find women poets who'd been in that situation in London writing poems. And Tony Fraser, too, who's the publisher of Shearsman Books, and he's the great champion of Spanish language poetry in the UK, he mentioned the underrepresentation of women poets. So I pitched this idea to him, and he was very enthusiastic about it. And so I started compiling the anthology.
Oh, fantastic. What an amazing opportunity for you and for all of us as readers. Obviously, we will listen to the poets themselves reading a few of their poems, and then we are lucky enough to have English poets reading their work in translation. But can you tell us a little bit about what readers can expect from the anthology?
Well, these are poets in mid-career, and their poems mostly from the last 10 years or so. It's a kaleidoscope of voices, lyrical, political, intimate, witty, philosophical, sometimes sharp and funny, sometimes grieving, beautiful, strange, brutal when brutality is called for. All of these things we'll hear tonight.
Fantastic. That's really exciting. Obviously, I imagine that the translation process has not been easy. How did you select the poems to be translated, the poets? Can you tell us a little bit about the selection process? Because obviously we know we want to fit so many poems in an anthology, but that's not always possible. No.
Well, the great joy of it was that I could select the poets and poems that most appealed to me and that I thought would resonate most with an English audience too. I asked Spanish poet friends to draw lists of their favorites, and I investigated the ones who came up on lots of lists. And I looked at their poems and their readings on the web. Then when I'd made my choice, I asked them to send me their recent collections. The poets themselves generously gave their time and their help in polishing the final translation. I found some really terrific poets and poems, which are now among my favorites too. And I hope everyone would agree about that. I'm sure they will.
Definitely, fantastic. What were the main challenges of the translation process? How do you keep true to the original? How do you give a different voice to each poet? That must be really difficult.
That's really quite an unconscious process, I think. Their voices come through. I'm translating what they say, and I'm trying to make a poem of it. I'm making a poem of it, hopefully, and their voices they come through. Their voices, their poems are, in a sense, reproduced, I hope.
Fantastic. Terence, was translating 10 contemporary Spanish women poets any different to translating previous works you've done as a translator?
No, not really. Art is art and poetry is poetry. And so the difference maybe from some of the male Spanish poets are translated in the directness and less abstraction, less doom, less of the el vacío and la nada and so more human concerns.
Okay, fantastic. What is next and what is needed in Spanish poetry in translation?
Well, you need a good English poet and preferably with a good knowledge of Spanish, then who goes out and discovers a Spanish poet or is recommended a Spanish poet they admire. And after that, they really have to champion them because, as you said, it's hard to get translations published. They're a small percentage of the poetry books published, and you're also in competition with all the other world languages. So you have to be determined.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Terence. At the end of the poetry readings, we will have a chance, if we've got time, for more questions. So we will open up the floor and the chat function on Zoom and on YouTube Live in case someone has any question that they want to ask of Terence or of the poets themselves. But I think that, Terence, you've managed to give us a clear overview of the translation process and how the book came along. So maybe we could go on to listen to the poets themselves, reading a few of them, of their poems, if that's okay with you.
Yes, can I just say welcome and a million thanks to all of them, and how much I've enjoyed the whole thing and how wonderful I think that it is that they're all here this evening.
Fantastic, thank you, Terence. And obviously, on behalf of all the English readers, I think we should thank you as well for making their voices available to English readers. So thank you for doing this amazing translation work. Okay, so we will start with Pilar Adón, who has published different poetry collections. Da Dolor, Las Órdenes, Mente Animal, La Hija del Cazador. She has also published 2 collections of short stories and 2 novels, and has translated books by, among others, John Fowles, Penelope Fitzgerald, Henry James, and Edith Wharton. So, Pilar, if you want to start.
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. Thank you. Thanks, Terence. I'm really happy to be here this afternoon. And the first poem I'm going to read is from the book entitled Mente Animal. Hay hombres que mueven animales de un lado a otro, que prefieren pensar en el castor y la nutria, con el latido de la tierra en los oídos. Le preguntó si quiere beber, tal vez vino, y llenó su vaso. Él está en lo mismo. Lo veo en sus hombros vencidos. Se centra en lo que quiere centrarse y lo demás le da igual. En el bote de cubierto solo cuchillos. Insiste en que necesita un par de consejos y murmura frases inconclusas, sin dejar de mirarse los pies. ¿No sabe que guardo 2 cartuchos del 12 en el cajón de la mesa y que no olvido que todo en la vida exige un estado de blanca alerta?
I'm delighted now to welcome Clare Pollard, who's going to read Pilar's poems in translation. Clare has published 5 collections of poetry with Blood Axe, her most recent, Encarnación. Her play, The Weather, premiered at the Royal Court Theatre. She edits modern poetry in translation, and her translation projects include a new version of Ovid's Heroines and a co-translation of Asha Lul Mohammed's The Sea Migrations. Her latest book is a non-fiction title, Fierce Bad Rabbits, The Tales Behind Children's Picture Books. Thank you, Clare.
Parece apacible, parece humano.
Sorry, I need to unmute myself.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Claire,
I didn't know. Okay,
Sorry,
yeah.
which poem should I read, Terence? Sorry.
Yes, please. It's Decalogue 2. Yeah.
It's Decalogue 2. Okay. Some farmers, when they move their cows from field to field, would rather focus on the otter, the beaver, the pulse of the earth sounding in their ears. I ask him, does he want something to drink? He says, wine maybe, and I give him a glassful. He's moping. His shoulders are slumped. He's sunk in his thoughts and the rest can go to hell. A case full of knives. He says I need to shape up and mutters to himself muddled words with his eyes on the ground. He doesn't know I keep 2 12-ball cartridges in the kitchen drawer, and I don't forget that everything in life demands a state of white alert.
Parece apacible, parece humano. el bruto que bajó del cerro entre gruñidos para tirar de mi brazo e iniciarme en la ciencia del sentimiento único, tras decir que tampoco cabría más en tan escueto cuerpo, porque soy una mujer pequeña. Devora la carne abierta que no devoran los gusanos. Se acerca a la puerta y se mueve impulsado por una vida que no tiene, valiente por esta incapacidad mía de osadía para salir corriendo. Los graznidos se posan en la alfombra roja de figuras que podrían volar, volar. Lejos de los rugidos del pasillo, paredes en sábanas de pliegues. Las muñecas que se frotan el cuerpo, con la cabeza vuelta y los brazos en alto, mientras él me arrastra por las baldosas. Sus vestidos en el armario de madera que alberga la existencia de un galápago. Los monstruos de otoño se disuelven en la luminosidad del cielo, ese refugio para ansias extrañas y excursiones no hechas.
Three. He seems peaceable, human almost, this brute beast who came down from the mountain growling and pulled on my arm to instruct me in the wisdom of unity of feeling, because he said, so scant a body couldn't fit in more than one, for I am a small woman. He devours opened flesh, whatever worms won't eat. He goes towards the door, his displacements driven by a foreign impulse, made brave by my inability to summon the courage to run away. The squawkings come to rest on the red rug patterned by flying figures, or figures that could fly far from the roars in the corridor, the folds in the wall hangings, the dolls who rub their bodies with their heads turned away and their arms above their heads while he drags me over the tiles, their clothes in the wooden wardrobe, a turtle house. The monsters of autumn dissolve in the shining skies, where strange longings and failed outings hide.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much to both of you for reading the poems in their original version and in their translation. It's always so interesting to hear the different voices and how they come across. So thank you so very much. So we'll go to the second poet, who is part of the anthology, Marta Asunción Alonso, who teaches at the University of Alcalá de Henares and has a PhD in French studies from the Complutense in Madrid. She has received numerous poetry awards, and her publications include Archipiélago, Balcánica, Wendy, No tan joven, Autorretrato, and she also translates Francophone authors into Spanish. So she clearly has a very good understanding of the challenges of translation. So Marta, if you want to read your poems. Somos todo orejas.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. Gracias, Diana, por tu presentación. Mil gracias a todos por la asistencia, al Instituto Cervantes por ser siempre casa abierta para la poesía y a Terence por este trabajo maravilloso. Muchas gracias de corazón. Corazón de naranja. Al pastor alemán que tú recuerdas trotando por tu infancia, lo atropelló un tractor cuando creciste. Se nos cayeron luego los vencejos como guantes raídos de las tardes azules, tardes de manos llenas, cielo bajo. Miro cómo mi abuela, los ojos muy abiertos, fervorosa, está exprimiendo un zumo en la cocina. Miro temblar sus manos. Debajo de esas manos miro girar el sol, aroma antiguo, sangre pura del tiempo más redondo, corazón de naranja que aún nos ciega. No queremos morirnos, no queremos. La miro y habla sola en la cocina, mientras exprime un zumo como quien reza un salmo, apura la inocencia y el candor, bebe memoria. Miro temblar sus manos y el almendruco estéril, la tapia, blanco, sucio para trepar de sed, amarga adolescencia, fruta viva. son cosas que brillaron antes de que te fueras.
That's lovely, Marta. Now we welcome Katrina Naomi to read the translation. Katrina's latest collection is Wild Persistence, Persistencia Salvaje, and was published in June 2020 by Cebrián.
Thank you.
Katrina.
Orange Heart. The German shepherd, you recall, trotting through your childhood, went under a tractor when you grew. Then swallows swooped down on us like threadbare gloves from the blue dusk, dusks of full hands, low skies. I watch my grandmother, wide-eyed, febrile, juicing oranges in the kitchen. I see the tremor in her hands. Under those hands, I see the sun rotate, ancient aroma, pure blood of time itself. Orange heart still blinding us. We won't die. We won't. I see her talking to herself in the kitchen while she juices an orange like someone intoning a psalm. She drinks in innocence and candor, drinks memory. I see the tremor in her hands and the barren green almond tree. The wall, a dirty white to climb a thirst, bitter adolescence, living fruit. Those shining things before you left for good.
Muchas gracias, Katrina.
Nada.
Lost Generation. Era un mundo sin protección solar. Los sueños, las inmensas antenas parabólicas sobre los tejados, monos azules tendidos en patios interiores, mapamundis proféticos tras las manchas de aceite. No teníamos miedo. Fuimos a escuelas donde los maestros habían llevado luto por nosotros, que estábamos llamados a heredar la transparencia. Dicen que a la salida alguien nos daba caramelos con droga. Yo nunca tuve dudas. Era nuestro destino, ser una nueva raza de gigantes, hombres libres, mujeres que haríamos el trabajo de 100 hombres. ¿Cómo no ser valientes? Pasábamos agosto con abuelos que habían sudado todo el frío del país. Fumaban y tosían y aflojaban bombillas porque la luz no es gratis. También tuvimos padres, una nación sonámbula de padres que venían del sur. Por la noche volvían tarde a casa y exclamaban: «Señor, si me sacas al menos 2 cabezas». Éramos los mayores, crecimos 1 centímetro diario y estrenamos mallas, ternura primogénita, zapatillas paredes que atravesaban yonkis en la noche para aprender francés. Duendes únicos, magos de la calcomanía. Todo se nos quedó pesquero tan deprisa, el colacao, los paraísos para mascotas olímpicas, los cromos, la fe de nuestra primera comunión. Cuando al fin llegó el metro a nuestro barrio, fue demasiado tarde. Ya estaba preparado el plan de fuga.
Lost Generation. The dreams, the immense satellite dishes on the roofs, blue jumpsuits, hung out in the yards with grease stains, the shape of far continents. We were unafraid. Our primary school teachers were mourning for us. The airs of transparency. They say someone gave us drugged sweets by the school gate. I had no doubts. We were born to be a new race of giants, free men, women who would do the work of 100 men. We were bound to be courageous. We spent August with grandparents who had sweated all their country's blood. They smoked and coughed and unscrewed light bulbs because lights cost money. Also, we had parents, a nation of sleepwalkers, migrants from the south. At night, they came home late and yelled, "Dear God, you're twice my size." We were the grown-ups. We grew an inch a day and tried on tights, first loves, Paredes trainers. and made our way through junkies to learn French in evening classes. Weird spirits, sorcerers of the transfer. We went through our crazes so fast. Nesquik, Olympic mascot, heaven, Pokemon cards, the faith of our first communion. The metro reached our suburb too late. Our escape plans were already laid.
Thank you so much again to Marta and Katrina. It's really a pleasure to listen to you. And I think that we've only heard two of the poets anthologized so far, but we can see the different styles that you all bring to the anthology. So hopefully it will enthuse everyone to embark on the reading of it. And the third poet we have today is Graciela Baquero, who is a poet and a teacher of philosophy, an actor and a singer. And she also works in the publishing firm Mundos Posibles, which she founded with Daniel Jiménez. Her books include Pintura sobre Agua, Contactos, Los Ojos Boca Arriba, Oficio de Frontera, Crónicas de Olvido. She has won the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid Poetry Prize and the International Puerta de Oro Prize for Short Fiction. We are very much looking forward to listening to you, Graciela.
Hola a todos. Primero, gracias a Teresín por hacernos este regalo de encontrarnos a todas en un libro. Disfruto de la poesía de mis compañeras, que son fantásticas, y es un honor para mí estar en esta pequeña familia. Y gracias al Instituto Cervantes por este encuentro en el aire que estamos haciendo. Teresi, voy a leer primero la introducción al libro de Crónicas de Olvido, porque Teresi me pidió que lo leyera. No es específicamente un poema, pero da sentido a todo el poema, a todo el libro. Encuentro. Sucedió en el barrio de Lavapiés, en Madrid, durante una noche calurosa de verano. Yo estaba paseando con algunos amigos, aprovechando la oscuridad para refrescarnos después de haber pasado el día a escondidas de un sol implacable. Íbamos por la calle Argumosa cuando me separé del grupo y entré en un bar para comprar tabaco. Ya dentro del local me aproximé a la barra donde una mujer estaba bebiendo un vino. Era una mujer adulta, más bien envejecida, desaliñada, extremadamente flaca y borracha. Mientras yo intentaba hablar con el camarero, ella se volvió hacia mí y mirándome fijamente se fue acercando hasta que de pronto me preguntó: ¿cómo estás? A lo que yo respondí: muy bien, cosa que realmente era cierta. Pero como solemos hacer en estos casos, no mostré demasiado entusiasmo por no entrar en diálogo con una persona herida de alcohol y soledad. La ignoraba, dirigiendo mis ojos hacia la imagen parlante de un televisor, cuando ella continuó diciendo: ya no me conoces. Entonces, curiosa, la volví a mirar por si se tratara de alguien que hubiera cambiado demasiado. Hay veces que el tiempo hace magia con nosotros, pero su cara me resultó absolutamente desconocida. Así se lo dije y volví a desviar mi atención hacia otras realidades, tratando de dejar bien claro que nada tenía que ver con ella. Sin embargo, insistió: ya no me conoces, ya no quieres reconocerme, pero yo soy tu hermana, yo soy tu hermana, olvido. Fui incapaz de responderle en aquel momento, pero no pude dejar de pensar en ella durante toda la noche. Cuando llegué a casa, ya de madrugada, busqué en el diccionario el significado de aquel nombre que tanto me había impactado y allí encontré esto: olvido, falta de recuerdo acerca de algo, cesación de un afecto que antes se sentía, omisión o negligencia de algo que se debía hacer o tener presente, nombre de mujer.
Now very pleased to welcome Abigail Parry. Abigail's collection, Jinx, Mal de Ojo, is published by Blood Axe. She teaches creative writing at Cardiff University.
Thank you. Can I just check that everyone can hear all right?
A bit quiet.
A little quiet? I'll speak up. Encounter. It happened in the Lavapiés district of Madrid on a warm summer night. I was out with friends taking advantage of the dark for a relaxing stroll after a day spent in hiding from the pitiless sun. We were going down Calle Argumosa when I peeled off to buy cigarettes in a bar. Inside, I went up to the counter where a woman was sitting drinking wine. She was middle-aged, old before her time, down at heel, terribly thin and drunk. I was trying to get served when she turned to me and asked, "How are you?" And I said, "Fine," which I really was. But as we do in these cases, I said it neutrally, not wanting to start a conversation with a creature marked by alcohol and solitude. I was ignoring her, gazing at the muted spectacle of a television when she went on, "You don't know who I am." Then, curious, I looked at her again in case she were an acquaintance on whom time had wrought its transformations, but no, I'd never seen her before. I said so and turned away to other realities, trying to make her understand she was nothing to me. But she was undeterred. "You don't know who I am. You don't want to acknowledge me. But I'm your sister Olvido." I said nothing to her then, but I thought of her all that night. When I got home in the early morning, I looked up the meaning of that name which had so struck me and found this. Olvido. Failure to remember something. Numbing of an emotion once felt. Omission or neglect of a duty. Woman's name. Forgive me, would you like me to read on?
No, I think it's Graciela.
Graciela, si quieres leer los demás poemas.
Vale, voy a leerlos seguidos. Son 3 breves poemas, que es como empieza el libro de Crónicas de Olvido. Olvido y yo entramos a la vida en un mismo golpe de labios convulsivos. La madre no percibió el doble nacimiento y lloró por el hecho de habernos perdido, y lloró por su cuerpo como casa de nadie. Bramó como las bestias en noches imprevistas. Sin embargo, nacimos. La sangre cubrió nuestro único cuerpo y las laderas de una inmensa montaña. Soy hermana de su sangre. Con ella he embriagado las calles y las venas. No sé si tengo que seguir o lo vas a leer tú, Abigail. Es que te estoy viendo a ti ahora mismo.
Puedes seguir, Graciela, creo que
venga,
sí.
Vale, venga.
Abigail puede leer los demás.
Vale. Soy hermana de su sangre. Con ella he embriagado las calles y las venas. He reído en sus labios con la estridencia del cínico. Te he escupido en la cara con su boca indefensa. Juntas vagamos por la ciudad sin gente, los ojos al suelo, hallando una moneda, hallando niños muertos, palomas, algodones. Después nos adentramos en el parque por festejar en la carne el clarear del día de este eterno destierro, de este exilio vivido en la casa de uno. Bebemos por ello y luego continuamos viaje, vamos de cuerpo abierto, como santas, reconociendo las paredes frías de nuestra alcoba. Olvido se descuida. Su cabello es una maraña inviolable. Tiene largas las uñas, negras de hurgar con la misma habilidad su cuerpo y la basura. Se descuida y, sin embargo, no me pierde de vista. Ella mete un palo en la boca del perro que me muerde y derriba la puerta de la casa donde he sido violada. Ella limpia los cuencos donde los ojos duelen y me da las palabras que me salvan la vida. ¿Dónde encarna el afecto? Creo que nunca nos hemos abrazado. Olvido está tan cerca que resulta imposible verse en el otro y realmente encontrarse. Muchas gracias.
Olvido and I entered life in a single thrust of lips in spasm. The mother took no notice of the double birth and wept at losing us, and wept for her body, now home to no one, and bellowed like beasts do some nights. Anyway, we were born. Blood coated our body and vast mountainsides. I am the sister of her blood. With her, I intoxicated streets and veins. I laughed loud, coarse laughter with her lips. I spat in your face with her defenseless mouth. Together we roamed the unpeopled city, staring at the pavement, finding a coin, finding dead children, pigeons, threads. Later, we go into the park to celebrate the first light of this eternal banishment in our flesh at home in exile. We drink to it and move on. We walk along, receptive to the world, like saints, acknowledging the cold walls of our cell. Olvido neglects herself. Her hair is an impenetrable tangle. Her nails are claws, black with rummaging through her body and garbage heaps. She neglects herself but won't let me out of her sight. She shoves a stick in the jaws of the dog biting me and kicks in the door of the house where they raped me. She cleanses the hollows where my eyes hurt and gives me words to save my life. Where does she keep her feelings? I don't think we have ever hugged. Olvido is so near to me, it's impossible to see oneself in the other, to really meet.
Gracias, Abigail. Hermosísimo, como suena.
Me encantan los poemas, gracias.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Graciela and Abigail. It's an honor to listen to you both reading. I'm sure that everyone agreed that, you know, just a couple of poems by the poets is not enough. So we really need to get hold of the book and get more of the wonderful compositions you've created. The fourth poet that we've got this evening with us is Mercedes Cebrián, who writes not just poetry, but also fiction, essays, pieces of journalism. And she has also translated different poets herself. Her books include El malestar al alcance de todos, Mercado común, 13 viajes in vitro, Cul-de-sac, La nueva taxidermia, El genuino sabor, Verano azul, Unas vacaciones en el corazón de la transición, Malgastar. Her poetry has been published in a number of UK magazines, so some of the English readers might be familiar with her work. So, Mercedes, we are ready for you to read your poems.
Hola, muchísimas gracias. Hablo en español porque entiendo que nadie con sentido común estaría de público aquí si no hablaste un poco de español o entendiese, así que imagino que también la gente del Reino Unido le apetece escuchar algo en español.
Yeah, we welcome a bilingual event, so any language will do.
Muchísimas gracias a todos, a Terence, también a Maura Dooley, que creo que es quien va a leer mis traducciones, y a todos. Bueno, voy a leer dos poemas de la antología. El primero se titula Ayer y hoy del kiwi. Yo era una niña el día que desembarcaron los kiwis en España. Yo era una niña española y ellos en cambio eran calvos y verdes, cansados por el viaje desde Nueva Zelanda. Probablemente llegaron en un contenedor de 8 pies por 40 al puerto de Algeciras, Barcelona o Bilbao. Tenemos tantos puertos en los que recibir especies de otros mundos. ¿Cómo hicieron para evitar los golpes durante el largo viaje? Los primeros, recuerdo, estaban siempre duros, eran inmadurables, eran como yo ahora. Para anunciarlos, ampliaban la foto de uno de ellos partido a la mitad. De un verde extraordinario y con esas semillas color negro. Comérselo requería valor. Dicen que hay una foto de Nikita Khrushchev comiendo un kiwi en una recepción en los años 50. No he podido encontrarla. No olvidemos que el kiwi, además de una fruta, es el nombre de un pájaro. Recordemos también que ningún animal sonríe a los humanos con ganas de intimar. A ver si sois capaces de leer bien sus gestos. La mueca de ese chimpancé al descubrir la encía es su preparación para el ataque. Mientras tanto, los inmigrantes que llegaron a España desde Pakistán el mismo día que el kiwi acordaron bajarle el picante a todas sus recetas y lograr que pasasen por platos de la India. 3 décadas después, el curry nos parece un plato regional y hay kiwis españoles que nacen aquí mismo, bajo plásticos sucios quemados por el célebre sol de Andalucía. El kiwi ahora está devaluado. Tuvieron que inventar uno más dulce, llamado kiwi gold, y así reconducir nuestro deseo de nuevo hacia su pulpa.
That was great, Nathaniel, thank you. And now mi hermana querida, Maura Dooley, is going to read your poems in English. Maura's most recent collection is The Silver Ring, El Plateado, published by Blood Axe. She teaches an MA course in creative writing at Goldsmiths, London.
The Kiwi, Past and Present. I was a girl the day Kiwis first landed in Spain. I was a Spanish girl, whilst they were bald and green, wearied by the sea voyage from New Zealand. They probably came in a 40-foot by 8 container into the port of Algeciras, Barcelona or Bilbao. We have so many ports to welcome other world species. How did they avoid bruising during the long voyage? I remember the first ones were always hard. They couldn't be ripened like me now. On the billboards, they were huge and cut in half, astonishingly green, and with those black seeds, you had to be brave to eat one. They say there's a photo of Nikita Khrushchev eating a kiwi at a dinner in the 50s. I haven't been able to track it down. We shouldn't forget that the kiwi is a bird as well as a fruit. We should remember too that no animal smiles at humans with friendly intentions. Let's see if you can read their expressions. The grimace of that chimp displaying his teeth is his preparation for attack. Meanwhile, the immigrants who arrived in Spain from Pakistan the same day as the kiwi agreed to reduce the spice content of all their recipes and pass them off as Indian. 30 years later, we consider curry a local dish, and there are Spanish kiwis born right here under dirty plastic burned by the celebrated sun of Andalusia. The kiwi now for us is neither here nor there, no novelty. They had to invent a sweeter one called kiwi gold to rekindle our desire for its flesh.
That's great, Maura, but you were in the dark for most of it. I don't know why.
Oh, I'm in the dark.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, I'll find a better light.
Right.
Sorry.
Mercedes, tienes que abrir.
Muchísimas gracias, Maura. Ahora leo Encuentros amistosos, que tiene dos partes. La primera parte. ¿Para quién la amistad? Es decir, ¿para quién estamos siendo amigos ahora que no nos mira nadie? ¿Qué máquina engrasamos y qué ruedas dentadas están girando durante esta charla? Portugal, claro que viene a cuento mencionarlo. Comparte su frontera con nosotros, aunque pocos le presten atención. La amistad la ejercemos al darle sorbos lentos a las bebidas que pedimos sin sed. Y mientras tanto, algo me suena en los bolsillos de mis pantalones. ¿Serán llaves, monedas? ¿Qué llaves? ¿Qué monedas? Si la ropa que llevo es de una sola pieza. Lo que suena es quizá Portugal, lo que tan a menudo permanece en silencio. ¿O es el amigo tímido que apenas participa y hoy quiere decir algo? No estoy hablando de los ingredientes, sino del guiso en sí. Cada amigo es un nuevo ingrediente, aunque nunca sea fácil terminarnos el plato a rebosar de puré de lentejas. Y así, sin avisar, nos llega el día de cambiar la bañera por ducha, de borrar aquello que empleábamos a diario con naturalidad. Es limpio, es eficaz, la edad lo está pidiendo, yo sí le veo el sentido. Y la segunda parte. Venimos siendo carne picada últimamente y no es del todo malo que así sea. Albóndigas, salchichas, hamburguesas. Es increíble la versatilidad de la carne picada. Sirve como relleno y al tumbarse sobre ella nos resulta mullida. ¿Qué opinas de parecer largos fideos rojos? Si hay un próximo encuentro entre nosotros, será en ese formato. Buscar ojos y bocas en las caras es una práctica del siglo XIX. Hoy la expresividad procede de los leves matices del rojo en el músculo muerto. Gracias.
Meeting up with friends. 1. Who is friendship for? I mean, who is our friendship for now no one looks at us? What machinery are we greasing? What cogs rotate during this dialogue? Portugal is certainly not beside the point here. It shares a border with us, though few people notice. We engage in friendship, taking slow sips of drinks we ordered, though we weren't thirsty. And meanwhile, there's a jingle in my trouser pockets. It must be keys or coins. What keys? What coins? If my nether garments are made from whole cloth. The jingle perhaps is Portugal, so usually silent. Or could it be the shy friend who barely speaks and today wants to say something? I'm not talking about the ingredients, but the stew itself. Each friend is a new ingredient, even if the brimming plate of lentil puree is always a challenge. And just like that, without warning, comes the day to swap our bathtub for a shower, erasing what was our daily custom. Hygienic, efficient, the age demands it. And I can see the sense in it. 2. Our flesh ends up as mince, and that's not altogether a bad thing. Meatballs, sausages, burgers. Mince is incredibly versatile. It's filling, and when you lie back on it, it's comfy. How does looking like long red spaghetti appeal to you? If we meet again, it will be in this guise. Searching for eyes and mouths in faces is a 19th century tic. Today, expressiveness comes from the slight nuances of red in dead muscle.
Fascinating readings. Thank you, Mercedes, and thank you, Maura, for lending your voice to the English translation. Our fifth poet this evening is María Eloy-García, who has a degree in geography and history. Her poems have been translated into German, Italian, Greek, Portuguese, Croatian, Serbian, Macedonian, Catalan, and obviously now English. The poems in the anthology are part of two of her poetry books, Cuánto dura cuánto, Los cantos de cada cuál. Her latest book of prose poems, Los habitantes del panorama, appeared just last year. María, we're looking forward to listening to you.
Hola, ¿qué hay? ¿Me escucháis, no?
Sí.
Perfecto. Muchas gracias a Terence, sobre todo porque ha tenido conmigo una gran paciencia. Un beso desde aquí. El primero que voy a leer va a ser La sopera. En el ciclo artúrico de mi mueble bar, todos prueban abrir la llave que va a dar a Ginebra. Lleva una sopera dentro porque es un mueble conceptual. La cuestión de lo artístico se resuelve en lo cotidiano. ¿Por qué resulta mi sopera sin estrenar, atrapada en las entrañas del mueble, tan poderosamente sentimental? ¡Qué duda tan presocrática! ¿Será la misma sopera? ¿La veré como la primera vez? ¿Será menos azul? ¿Cuántos pensaron en su producción en cadena, que estaría condenada a la oscuridad más absoluta? ¿Puede llamarse sopera a lo que nunca contendrá? Ante mi intuición empírica, el fenómeno es la sopera. Solo un juicio sintético podría acercarme a tocarla. Pero ¿cuántos juicios universales necesito tan solo para el recuerdo? Este idealismo trascendental merece una crítica necesaria. Imposible hacer pucheros. Pero si me pongo empírico-racional y digo que la experiencia es el origen y el límite de nuestro conocimiento, mi sopera tiene en sus cualidades sensibles ideas complejas que mantienen mi religión y mi memoria. La sopera es este deseo imposible de hacer pucheros. Y yo me pregunto, ¿cómo será la sopera con su realidad? ¿O cómo sería la sopera sin mi idea?
Great. Delighted to welcome Abigail back to read the translations of Maria.
Turin. In the forgive me, I'll start again. Turin. In the Arthurian cycle of my drinks cupboard, everyone tries to turn the key that opens on gin. It has a tureen inside because it is a conceptual cupboard. The aesthetic question resolves itself in the everyday. Why does my virgin tureen imprisoned in the cupboard's innards pack such an emotional punch? What a very pre-Socratic dilemma. Will it be the same tureen? Will I see it as I saw it first? Will it be less blue? How many imagined as it left the factory it would be condemned to the utmost obscurity? Is a tureen that will never hold soup worthy of the name? In the light of my empirical intuition, the phenomenon is the tureen. Only a synthetic judgment could bring me to touch it, but how many last judgments do I need for the memory? This transcendental idealism calls for a critique. Impossible to make soup or weep, but if I take up an empirico-rational stance and say, experience is the source and limit of all our knowledge, my tureen holds in its material qualities, complex ideas sustaining my religion and my memory. The tureen is this impossible longing to make soup. And I ask myself how the tureen gets on with its reality, or what would become of it without my idea.
El bien inmueble. La nostalgia vive en el sexto piso. Tira un papel por la ventana y por un segundo se confunde con el vuelo migratorio de un pájaro que quiere aparearse. La mierda que lanza desde su arriba cae sobre la raya en medio de un preso en libertad condicional que no recuerda cómo se iba a su casa. Aquí el niño que lo ve todo crea en ese momento en la parte izquierda del cerebro un comienzo de neura que asociará a la placidez 20 años más tarde. La bondad vive en el tercero. Tiene una casa confortable, pero incómoda. El odio tiene siempre un perro en la puerta del cuarto, pero la decoración de su casa es impecable. La timidez que vive en el quinto ve por la mirilla de su puerta blindada la cabeza distorsionada de un gordo, que es el mundo. En el noveno vive la veneración, la soltera que comparte piso con la envidia. El del octavo, que es el tiempo, se quedó justamente encerrado en el ascensor aquel día que viniste a mi casa. Y yo soy ese edificio, pero nunca subo al 10º, la casa de la perfección, que es una déspota. Suelo, sin embargo, quedarme en el primero, del que nunca sé salir. Allí vive el hastío, que no pagó nunca la comunidad. La memoria que vive en el segundo tiene el síndrome de Diógenes. Todo lo que sube a su casa es digno de ser guardado. Cualquier tontería tiene la dignidad de un tesoro, pero nunca recuerda el que se olvidó de ella. Ese día subiré al 7º, porque es justo allí donde habita el olvido.
Building. Nostalgia lives on the 6th floor, throws a piece of paper out of the window, and for a second it becomes a migratory bird seeking a mate. The bird lime it sheds up there falls on the middle parting of a prisoner on parole who can't find his way home. Here, the boy who sees it all creates that instant in the left side of his brain, the first sign of neurons which 20 years on he'll associate with contentment. Goodness lives on the 3rd floor. Her home is comfortable but uncomfortable. Hatred always has a dog at the door, but her house is immaculate. Shyness lives on the 5th floor. Through the fisheye in her reinforced door, she sees the clown mirror face of a fat man who is the world. On the 9th floor lives worship, the spinster who flat shares with envy. The 8th floor tenant who is time just happened to be trapped in the lift that day you came to my house, and I am that building. But I never go up to the 10th floor, where that despot perfection lives. I'm usually to be found on the 1st floor, which I can't seem to leave. Ennui lives here and doesn't pay taxes. Memory, who lives on the 2nd floor, has Diogenes syndrome. Everything that goes up there is hoarded, any frivolity treasured. But she won't recall the one who put her out of his mind. That day, I'll go up to the 7th floor, for that is where oblivion dwells.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Maria and Abigail. And now we're going to have a song from Alice Zawadski. Alice Zawadski's latest album is Within You is a World of Spring. En ti hay un mundo de primavera. She's preparing an album of songs about the moon, and one of them is Sornada De Luna.
Thank you, Terence. And thank you to everybody for your amazing poetry. Incredible. It's a real honor to be here. Así es como se enamora tu corazón con el mío. Ya vida una casa dando de combate a morir. Así es como se enamora. Así es como se enamora tu corazón con el mío. Tu corazón con el mío, luna. Luna, luna llena. Me encuentre. Luna, luna, luna llena. Anda muchacha a la casa y me trae la carabina. A matar este gavilán que no me deja gallina. La luna me está mirando, yo no sé lo que me ve. Yo tengo la ropa limpia y es tarde, la lavé. La luna me está mirando, yo no sé. Yo tengo la ropa limpia. Yo tengo la ropa limpia, ayer tarde. Ayer tarde la lavé, luna. Luna llena, me encuentre.
That was outstanding. Thank you, Alice. Thank you so much. Everyone is clapping. We're all on silence, but everyone is clapping. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful way to mark half of our poetry readings. And hopefully by now, everyone who is here has realized how much of a wide range we have in the anthology, different voices, different styles, different concerns. So again, congratulations to Terence for managing to translate all those very different voices. Our sixth poet tonight is Berta García Faet, who is a poet and translator. She has also received numerous literary prizes. She's the author of several books of poetry, Corazón Tradicionalista, Poesía 2008-2011, Los Salmos Fosforitos, La Edad de Merecer, which was actually translated into English. And she won the Premio Nacional de Poesía Joven Miguel Hernández in 2018. Berta, the floor is yours.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Me sabe muy mal, pero se me ha ido el santo al cielo escuchando a todas y escuchando a Alice, que me ha encantado, y justo ahora se me está yendo la batería al carajo. Si puede venir la siguiente poeta y mientras tanto voy a por el cargador, porque no quiero que me esperéis un minuto buscándolo. Si os parece bien. ¿Puede ser?
I'm okay. So the next poet is Erika. Erika, are you happy?
Of course, I can do it.
Fantastic.
Don't worry. I'm ready.
Fantastic. So we will alter the order a little bit. So we will welcome Erika Martínez.
Thank you.
Here, whose first collection, Color Carne, won the Radio Nacional de España Young Poets Prize. Her second, El Falso Techo, was a finalist for the Primera Prize and chosen as one of the 5 best collections of the year by El Cultural. She's also published a book of aphorisms, and her latest collection is Chocar con Algo. She teaches Latin American literature at the University of Granada. So thank you, Erika, for stepping in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to start asking for 1 second, because I need to drink only.
Yes, of course, take your time.
Sorry. And I would like to thank the Instituto Cervantes of Manchester for hosting us. To thank Shearsman for having the courage of publishing a book like this. Thank you very much for doing that. And especially to Terence. Terence, thank you very much for your fantastic translations and for your patience. Thank you very much, Terence, for that. And okay, I will share my words now, but I really want to hear them in English. I'm surely I wouldn't be the same poet, if I hadn't read poets like John Keats or Alice Oswald, which is such a good poet. I'm in love with her, and now I am under construction at home. So if you hear a big hammer, it's not my verse. It's not my verse. They are only working. I will read the first poem, which is La Casa Encima in Spanish. Thank you to you all. La Casa Encima. Tantos siglos removiendo esta tierra que atravesó el ganado y alimentó al ganado y a los hombres que regaron esta tierra con el curso negro de su sangre. La sangre cambia de color cuando sale del cuerpo. Tantos siglos alineando ladrillo. Aquí hubo un establo sobre el que se construyó una iglesia, sobre la que se construyó una fábrica, sobre la que se construyó un cementerio, sobre el que se construyó un edificio de protección oficial. Tantas mujeres fregando sus baldosas, pariendo en sus baldosas, escondiendo la mierda debajo de las baldosas, que pisaron su hijo ebrio y sus sobrios maridos, que trabajaron y fornicaron por el bien de un país en el que no creían. Tantos siglos para que yo, miembro de una generación prescindible, pierda la fe en la emancipación, mire el techo de mi dormitorio y se me venga la casa encima.
Thank you very much, Erika. Now, Nell Leyshon is going to read the translation. Nell is a novelist and playwright. Her novel, The Color of Milk, Del Color de la Leche, won the Madrid Booksellers Book of the Year prize. Nell taught creative writing for many years with marginalized communities, and she runs the Outsiders Project, which makes work for theatre written and performed by outsider artists. She's deputy chair of the Shakespeare's Globe Theatre.
The house falls down. So many years digging this earth where cattle roamed, and which fed the cattle and the men who irrigated the earth with their black spilt blood. Blood changes colour on leaving the body. So many years bricklaying, Here stood a stable. On top of that, they built a church. On top of that, they built a factory. On top of that, they built an institution. So many mothers scrubbing its flagstones, giving birth on its flagstones, hiding shit under the flagstones that their drunken sons and their sober husbands trod in, who worked and fucked for a country they had no faith in. So many years, so that I, of a generation surplus to requirements, lose my belief in emancipation, gaze at my bedroom ceiling, and the house falls down around my ears.
Thank you very much, Nell. Thank you for the reading. El punto en el cuello. Si lo doblase como grulla de origami o pañuelito bordado, cabría casi entero dentro de una nuez. Eso me dice el ginecólogo, y que lo tengo bonito. De niña apenas, eso quiere decir. Las mujeres con hijos tienen una raya en el cuello del útero. Las mujeres sin hijos tenemos un punto. Para hablar del dilema, utilizamos el código Morse, atando cada letra a una palabra. Árbol, motor, imán, Gomorra, árbol. Estoy abierta de piernas. Imposto una sonrisa en este hospital concreto de un mundo que es infinito y sin embargo se extiende. ¿Su ombligo dónde está? Cuando vuelva, y lo haré canturreando, no voy a lanzarte el polvo que mordimos. No voy a lanzarte el mapa de un yermo. Voy a lanzarte una nuez.
The cervix dot. If you folded it like an origami crane or an embroidered handkerchief, it would almost fit in a nutshell. That's what my gynecologist tells me, and that mine is pretty, like a girl's. That's what he means. Women with children have a dash on the neck of their womb. Childless women have a dot. To talk about this dilemma, we use Morse code, attaching each letter to a word. Friend, rope, island, entry, notion, deep. My legs are wide open, my smile glued on in this concrete hospital in a world that is infinite, but still expanding. Where is its navel? When I get home and humming a tune, I won't throw the dust we bit at you. I won't throw you a map of barrenness. I'll throw you a nut.
Abolirse. Se podría afirmar, yo soy mi cuerpo. Sin embargo, si perdiera la pierna derecha en una batalla, o huyendo de la batalla, o más bien en un estúpido accidente doméstico, seguiría siendo yo. También seguiría siéndolo si perdiera las dos piernas o incluso todos mis miembros. ¿Cuánto cuerpo tendría que perder para dejar de ser yo? Quizá una mínima parte de mí representaría al resto por sinécdoque, o quizá mis restos me convertirían en otra. Cortarte las uñas te modifica existencialmente.
Self-cancelling. One could say, I am my body. Yet if I lost my right leg in a battle, or running away from a battle, or more likely in a stupid accident in the home, I would still be me. I'd still be me too if I lost both legs, or even all four limbs. How much body would I have to lose to stop being me? Maybe a small part of me could stand for the rest in a synecdoche, or perhaps what was left of me would turn me into someone else. Cutting one's nails alters one existentially.
Thank you so much for your enchanting words, your voices. It's lovely, really lovely to listen to you both. And thank you for stepping in. Berta, are we okay now? Or yes, fantastic. So I already introduced you before. We are looking forward to listening to you.
Vale, gracias. Gracias, Erika, por salvarme. Bueno, lo primero, muchísimas gracias a Terence, que por fin nos conocemos en persona, digamos. Y nada, quería agradecerte el trabajo increíble y tu generosidad y también, sobre todo, tu paciencia. Bueno, voy a leer un poema inédito que se llama Cuestionario prematrimonial. ¿Nos vamos a vivir a un falansterio? ¿Has perdido mucho el tiempo? ¿Escribir libros tristes es adaptativo? ¿No hay cuerpo que no sea a largo plazo música? ¿Te drogas? ¿Crees en algo? ¿Eres salvaje? ¿Eres anarquista? ¿Teísmo, flechas, ritos, pasos? ¿Estrías, ascuas, teína, ateísmo? ¿Has resbalado por el páramo con una décima de fiebre? ¿Ríes a carcajadas por el páramo con una décima de fiebre? ¿Escuchas el silencio histriónico de la palabra arpa? ¿Escuchas el silencio histriónico de todas las palabras? ¿Escuchas el silencio histriónico del imperativo abrázame y, verbalizándolo, me abrazas? ¿Plagian, pero mal, las palabras a los gajos, los textos de los cuervos, los cloqueos contraseña y el vapor y el pespunte, la diástole, el párpado? ¿Es una herida fresca? ¿Tienes mucho calor? ¿Nihilismo o pétalo? ¿Nihilismo o pétalo?
Thank you very much, Berta. Everybody should have to answer that questionnaire. Now, Katrina is going to read the English of your poems.
Prenuptial questionnaire. Shall we join a utopian community? Have you wasted much time? Is writing sad books adaptive? Don't all bodies mutate into music in the long run? Do you take drugs? Believe in anything? Are you wild, anarchistic? Theism, darts, rites, processions, striations, embers, theing, atheism. Have you slipped over on moorland with a fever? Have you burst out laughing on moorland with a fever? Can you hear the unvoiced plea of the word harp? Can you hear the unvoiced plea in every word? Can you hear the unvoiced imperative, hold me, and voicing it, hold me? Are words a poor copy of rook song, crow texts, core passwords, and mist and petit point, the diastole, the eyelid? Aren't you bleeding? Do you feel very hot? Nihilism or petal? Nihilism or petal?
Muchas gracias, Katrina, por tu lectura.
De nada.
Bueno, ahora voy a leer un poema que se llama Deseo. Y viene con dos citas. La primera es de Oliveiro Girondo, y mujeres que solo se alimentan de pétalos de rosa. Y la segunda es de Sylvia Plath, and the lovers pass by, pass by. Padres, hermanos, amigos, profesores. Soy un ser de deseo. No es suficiente el contexto. Yo en el salón, en la bañera, en el cine, en el despacho, ocupada en las tareas que desubican el deseo, para lograr acallar este hecho sin espacio, que, especialmente, soy un ser de deseo. En el reino de la astenia y sus panfletos,
En este el milenio de la saturación y los cuerpos bellísimos encerrados en patéticos frasquitos de fobias sin tocarse, yo soy un ser de deseo. Bocas entreabiertas, corazón voluta. En el mundo de los helados estanques, de unidades inconmensurables y aisladas del contacto, cuerpos bellísimos agarrados a maderas, miedosos de rozar un tobillo por si al final se enamoran. Os tan solemne y tierna y felizmente anuncio una pulpa de deseo. No puedo salir de Sostakovich y me alimento de trompetas y de amores de la infancia que me encuentro en el metro y de señores frutas. Soy un ser de deseo. 1. Sé lo que es una revuelta de hormigas rojas africanas por entre las piernas. 2. Sé lo que es llegar a morderse los labios. 3. Sé lo que es decirle, por ejemplo, qué interesante, mientras pienso, oh Dios, lo que te haría. Oh Dios, en cuanto te descuides, te planto un beso que te mueres de colores. Y luego impondré mi disciplina y una cierta dulzura en tu cuarto extemplo de ver castamente películas. Y luego montaré una fiesta con los que un día fueron míos, y os haréis buenos amigos, y volveremos todos a un cierto París, básicamente de cuellos. Porque, sobre todo, soy un ser de deseo, y si me muevo por el mundo es para que engorde a mis expensas. Constantemente paso hambre. Soy un ser de deseo. Caminamos juntos por mi diagonal de cosas. Algún prodigio, alguna ventana. Y solo cuando mi deseo se ha convertido en una inmensa bola, o en un pichón o conejo obeso y planetario, lleno de estrías por seguir creciendo, hasta llegar al límite abismal de su volumen posible, solo entonces, cuando su tamaño ya nos resulta plenamente asqueroso, socialmente nocivo, sentimentalmente molesto, lo mato y me lo como.
Desire, with 2 epigraphs. The first from Oliverio Girondo, and women who only feed on rose petals, and from Sylvia Plath, and the lovers pass by. Parents, sisters, brothers, teachers, friends, I am a creature of desire. Wherever I am, in the living room, in the bath, in the movies, in the office, busy with displacement activities for desire, can't silence this fact without a space that above all else, I am a creature of desire. In the kingdom of Athenia and its propaganda, in the millennium of saturation and beautiful bodies, sealed in pathetic jars full of phobias, not touching one another, I am a creature of desire, lips ajar, heart scroll. In the world of frozen over lakes, in this world of incommensurable units with no common factor, beautiful bodies clinging to planks, afraid of ankle contact, lest they should fall in love, I grave and tender joyfully proclaim myself to you, a pulp of desire. I'm stuck in Shostakovich, and I feed on trumpets and boyfriends from childhood I meet in the underground, and man fruit. I am a creature of desire. 1. I know what it is to have a riot of African red ants between my legs. 2. I know what it is having to bite my lip. 3. I know what it is to be say, oh, how interesting, when I'm thinking, oh God, what I'd do with you. Oh God, when you least expect it. I'll kiss you and you'll die of colours, and then I'll impose my order and a little sugar on your room, ex-temple to chastely watching movies, and then I'll hold a party for those who once were mine, and make you all good friends. We'll all go back to a Paris made up basically of necks. Because above all, I am a creature of desire. And if I move around the world, it's to fatten, fatten, fatten at my own expense. I hunger all the time. I am a creature of desire. We walk together over my diagonal of things, a miracle, a window. And only when my desire has become an enormous ball, or a pigeon, or an obese planetary rabbit, covered in stretch marks from its continual expansion, until it reaches the abyssal limit of its growth. Only then, when its size is already utterly disgusting to us, a threat to society and to our sanity, will I kill and eat it.
Muchas gracias, Katrina, otra vez.
Yes.
Fantastic, wonderful renditions of these poems in Spanish and English. Thank you so much, Berta and Katrina, for your poems. To keep things interesting, we are going to alter again the order just a little bit. So Julieta Valero, who was supposed to be the last poet we would listen to, is going to read her poetry now, if it's okay with everyone, and if it's especially okay with Maura, who will have to read, yes, okay, fantastic, the translations into English. So it's a great pleasure to introduce to you all Julieta Valero, who is a poet, an essayist, and an art administrator. She has published 5 collections of poetry: Altar de los Días Parados, Los Heridos Graves, Autoría, which won the Cáceres and Ausiàs Marc prizes, Que Concierne was chosen as one of the 3 best poetry books of 2015 by El Cultural and ABC, and Los Tres Primeros Años, which was also chosen as one of the best collections of 2019 by El Mundo. Her books have been translated into German and into Italian, and her poems into many other languages. She has also worked in publishing, arts administrations, has led poetry workshops, and is director of the Fundación Centro de Poesía José Hierro in Madrid. Julieta, cuando quieras.
Hola, buenas noches. Y muchísimas gracias por la paciencia de colarme por mis nobles razones domésticas. Quiero darle las gracias a Terence, por supuesto, por su trabajo, su inteligencia poética, y muchísimas gracias a todas. Con la mayoría he compartido ratos muy bonitos de lectura y de reflexión sobre la poesía, y este encuentro es virtual pero muy cálido, dado lo que está cayendo. Voy a leer 2 poemas. El primero se llama Siddhartha en Google. La historia del joven príncipe que sale de palacio y descubre de pronto la enfermedad y la muerte, la estafa. Todo ha sucedido tan rápido, la frustración, encantadora como el sexo, innecesaria. Debemos tomar mucha fruta y comprender el Islam, y que el día también desearía tener 24 horas para nosotros. Pero hay, no sé, un error de estructura, afuera y adentro, quizá. El más grave de todos, la mirada. La piel, el más delicado. Y hay una forma de aburrimiento saludable, la ausencia de drogas. Aquí premian el final de la juventud con un ático. Hoy he visto una cigüeña anidar en la punta de una grúa desmesurada y he visto la diagonal de la necesidad trazada por un galgo. Nunca sabré de qué huía, el jurado no tendrá en cuenta mi conmoción, pero sí el modo en que explico la afición a atar gente. Con tiempo y una habitación más o menos vacía, muchos de nosotros no decepcionan. Los que tienen hijos acceden a formas netas de desesperación. Los del hemisferio sur no tienen problemas con lo abstracto, sí desconfían de los huracanes.
Oh, thank you very much, Julieta. That was great. And now Maura's going to read your translations. Maura?
Yes, I'm sorry. I thought I hadn't unmuted myself. Siddhartha on Google. The tale of the young prince who leaves his palace and comes face to face with illness, death, and lies. It happened in a flash. Frustration, delightful like sex, and needful. We must eat lots of fruit and understand Islam, and that day too would like to have 24 hours for us, but here's, well, a structural error, external and internal, perhaps. The eyes, the most serious of all, the skin, the softest. And there's a healthy tedium, drug-free. Here, they reward the end of youth with a studio flat. Today, I saw a stork build its nest on the top of an overweening crane, and I saw the diagonal of necessity traced by a greyhound. I'll never know what the jury was running away from. They won't consider my troubled soul, but they will how I describe my fondness for tying people up. With time and a more or less empty room, many of us won't disappoint. People with children have access to lucid despair. People from the Southern Hemisphere don't have a problem with the abstract, but they do fear tornadoes.
Muchas gracias, Maura. El segundo poema se llama In the Mood for Love y tiene una cita de John Ashbery, que es pecado mortal leer en español, pero lo voy a cometer. En algún lugar alguien está viajando furiosamente hacia ti. Iba a decirte, no vengas, que conozco la trampa del paraíso, limbo, piedra y abandono. Pero es tan incómodo estar vivo. Es festín, defectuoso porque cursa, defectuoso porque termina. Todo tiene el mismo cuerpo que la vida. Todo está mal. De modo que tú, ciego cometa que trabaja, compra y algunas mañanas de festivo alcanza verdades. Ven, cuando la revuelta del encuentro amaine y ames mi cuerpo y la forma de mis dientes y el error de estas manos exactamente distintas a las que imaginabas, te conmueva como una revelación. Te daré 3 mentiras contra el frío. No debes tener miedo. No estás solo ni hay sentencia. Desde hoy la catástrofe consiste en no salir a la vez.
In the mood for love. Somewhere, someone is traveling furiously towards you. John Ashbery. I was going to tell you, don't come. I know the snares of paradise, limbo, stone, abandonment. But it's so hard to be alive. This banquet, flawed because it flows and because it ends. Everything is made of the same stuff as life. Everything is wrong. So you, blind comet, working, buying, some weekend mornings glimpsing truths, come. When the tumult of our meeting lessens, and you love my body and the shape of my teeth, and the error of these hands you imagine so differently moves you as a revelation, I'll give you 3 lies against the cold. You mustn't be afraid. You aren't alone. There is no judgment. From today, catastrophe consists in not leaving together.
Gracias.
Thank you so much, Julieta and Maura, for lending us your thoughts and your voices in this reading. So amazing. Okay, the next part that we've got tonight with us, and now we go back to the order as it was supposed to happen, is Elena Medel, who is the editorial director of La Bella Varsovia, an independent poetry publisher. She has published the poetry books Mi Primer Bikini, which was actually translated into English, My First Bikini, in 2015, Tara and Chatterton, which won the Loewe Young Poets Prize in 2014. She's also published chapbooks Vacaciones and Un soplo en el corazón, and is the author of El Mundo Mago, an essay about Antonio Machado. Medel has collected her poems in the volume Un día negro en una casa de mentira, and she has been translated into a dozen languages. Her novel Las Maravillas is actually coming out this year. So, Elena, the floor is yours whenever you want.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Muchísimas gracias a Terence por su trabajo tan generoso. Muchas gracias a la editorial por su valentía y por su cuidado. Gracias al Cervantes de Manchester por permitir esta reunión, y gracias también a quienes están escuchándonos por el mero hecho de escuchar poesía, ¿no? O sea, nosotras estamos compartiendo, etcétera, pero bueno, esa generosidad la agradezco un montón, ¿no? Saber que hay alguien al otro lado. Voy a leer un tríptico, Macetas de hortensias en nuestra terraza, ascenso. Morado o violeta o azul sucio, más bien una maceta de plástico negro con una hortensia que se asoma al balcón. La vida costaba 18 € y no había nada que temer. Para la supervivencia compré un manual sobre jardinería. Bastaba con anotar cuándo crecer en un texto de cerámica, cuándo el pulgón y cuándo los esquejes. Porque toda mujer se casa con su casa, desde la terraza en mi salón con ropa de domingo. Mesa en el centro, mantel blanco, muchos platos rebosantes, mi amor feliz, sereno, y en el primer plano de la fotografía una maceta de plástico negro con una hortensia morada o violeta, o más bien azul sucio, que se asoma al balcón. En su sitio el estribillo de los electrodomésticos, el servicio de 2 para cada comida, todavía 2, él, yo, las plantas cuentan por su cuenta, sentados al almuerzo, todavía los designios familiares, flechazo, noviazgo, aceptación, convivencia, más tarde matrimonio, hijos, nuevos volúmenes en el álbum de sus casas, todavía sentados al almuerzo, todo en su sitio. Mientras tanto en la casa el hombre duerme, la mujer no.
And now Nell is going to read the translations of Eleanor's poetry. Thank you.
Hydrangea on our terrace, moving in. Purple or violet, or better, dirty blue. Hydrangea in a black plastic pot balanced on our balcony. The cost of living was 18 €, and there was nothing to fear. To keep it alive, I bought a gardening manual and noted down when to repot it in ceramic, when to check for aphids, when to take cuttings, because every woman marries her house. From the terrace, my living room in its Sunday best, the table as centerpiece with its white cloth and many heaped plates, my love, my serene happiness, and in the foreground of the photograph, a hydrangea, purple or violet or better, dirty blue, in a black pot balanced on the balcony. In their proper place, the white goods sing, the knives and forks for 2 at every meal, just 2, him and me. The plants don't count. Sitting down to lunch, all the usual plans, love at first sight, boyfriend, girlfriend, coupledom, moving in together. Later on, marriage, children, new volumes in the albums of their homes, still sitting down to lunch, everything in its right place. Meanwhile, in the house, the man is sleeping, the woman stays awake.
Muchas gracias, Nell.
Nada, gracias a ti.
Macetas de hortensias en nuestra terraza, pulgón. Zarpa una flor desde Brasil hasta Francia y con su simbolismo condena a la mujer que la riega en una maceta de plástico negro que se asomada al balcón. De haber escogido un jazmín o una begonia para la terraza de nuestro piso de alquiler, de haber atendido a la florista, la han arrancado de su hábitat. Por mucho que te empeñes, nada sobrevive en un clima al que no pertenece. ¿Qué escribiría hoy? ¿Dónde viviría hoy? ¿Con quién sería? Pero la hortensia es solo una flor. Y los rastros del daño de la piel de la planta Dejan también su rastro de daño en las manos que la cuidan, aunque la hortensia sea solo una flor. Porque cuando todo va bien, algo se mancha. De modo que sí, que esto es el fracaso, una mota oscura y leve sobre la piel, más hebra de tizne que se marca cuando la yema del dedo insiste en ella y se aferra en lugar de borrarla, más hebra de tizne que lunar, como ningún libro explicó, más mancha que hebra, que tizne o que lunar, más es. Mientras tanto, en la casa, el hombre duerme, la mujer no.
Hydrangea on our terrace, aphid. A flower sets sail from Brazil to France, and with its symbolism condemns the woman who waters it in its black plastic pot balanced on the balcony. If I'd bought a begonia or jasmine for the terrace of our rented flat, if I'd listened to the florist, they've torn it from its habitat, however well you care for it, nothing survives in an alien climate. Where would I be living now, and who with? But the hydrangea is only a flower, and the traces of damage on its skin leave traces of damage on the hands of the woman who tends it, though the hydrangea is only a flower. Because when everything goes well, it leaves a stain. So yes, this is disaster. A tiny black speck on the skin, more like a streak of soot imprinted when the fingertip presses too hard and sticks instead of wiping it away, more like a streak of soot than a beauty spot. The manual was silent on this point, more stain than streak than soot than beauty spot, a good deal more. Meanwhile, in the house, the man is sleeping, the woman stays awake.
Maceta de hortensias en nuestra terraza. Caída. Fiel al mecanismo de la época en la que los narradores omniscientes habitaban en cada personaje, ensayé la justificación. Un balcón lleno de plantas cultivando su propio idioma. En él, con él, hablaba, no atendía a los consejos por teléfono, nunca comprendí las advertencias de los manuales de jardinería. Pese a los genes que indicaban mi buena disposición ante una maceta de hortensias en las peores condiciones, no conseguí más que unos brazos de plástico negro y unos pechos como hortensias de color morado o violeta o azul sucio, cuando miento y respondo como si algo fuera bien. Ninguna mujer se casa con sus plantas. Ante el pulgón, dos únicos remedios: arrojar la planta a la basura o cederla a mis mayores. En esta situación, para el insecticida es tarde, una madre sabrá cómo actuar. Mientras tanto, en la casa, la mujer duerme. El hombre ya no está.
Hydrangea on our terrace, free fall. Loyal to the tradition of the omniscient narrator who read the minds of every character, I tried to make it work for me. A balcony full of plants cultivating their own dialect. In it, to it, I spoke. I paid no mind to telephone advice. I ignored the warnings in the gardening manuals. Despite the genes displaying my goodwill, faced with a dying hydrangea, all I get is black plastic arms and breasts like purple, violet, or dirty blue hydrangeas whenever I lie and pretend anything is going well. No woman marries her plants. Only two cures for aphids. Throw out the plant or give it to your parents. In a case like this, too late now for insecticide. Mother knows best. Meanwhile, in the house, the woman is sleeping, the man gone.
Thank you, Elena and Nell, for taking us through this journey, through these poems and readings. It's really fascinating. This takes us to our final poet included in the anthology and the last poet that we'll be reading for us tonight. So it's a pleasure to introduce Miriam Reyes and to welcome her to the event. Miriam Reyes was born in Galicia. She was brought up in Venezuela and now lives and works in Barcelona. She has published 6 books of poetry: Espejo Negro, Bella Durmiente, Desalojos, Haz lo que te digo, Pensando en Frío, which is a computer randomized mashup of the previous book with interactive possibilities, and Sardinia. She's also a filmmaker and translator and experiments with audiovisual literature and multimedia recitals. Miriam, we're looking forward to listening to you. You are the last one, so go for it. It's been a pleasure to listening to all of you. Thanks. You are on mute. Miriam, you need to unmute yourself.
Ok. Decía que muchas gracias, Diana, y muchas gracias a todas y a todos. Y sobre todo a Terence, ha sido un proceso maravilloso el de ser traducida por ti. O sea, te estoy muy, muy agradecida y la verdad es que se puede ver lo bien que sonamos todas, bueno, lo que sonáis, yo todavía no sé cómo sueno, pero vosotras sonáis todas de maravilla. Bueno, que ya es muy tarde, me pongo. ¿Es un juego de correr, un juego de cartas, de mesa o un videojuego? ¿Necesito destreza física, suerte o práctica? ¿He de seguir instrucciones o guiarme por mi instinto? Sudaré, me quedaré sin aire, tensaré los músculos hasta el agotamiento o repiquetearé con mis uñas sobre la mesa, imitando los cascos de los caballos que golpean mis costillas. ¿Moveré piezas de mí sobre el tablero? ¿Te como o me comes? Se trata de aparentar que tienes lo que no tienes. ¿Seremos rivales, adversarios, compañeros? ¿Ganaremos dinero, trofeos, dignidad? ¿Qué perderemos? La vida, una oportunidad, el honor, la palabra, el tiempo, la fortuna. ¿Qué perderemos?
Now we welcome Clare to read the translation. Thank you very much for it.
Do as I say. Is this a game of run and hide, a board game or a video game? Do I need fitness, luck or skill? Should I read the rules or follow my instincts? Will I sweat? Will I pant? Will I tense my muscles till I faint? Or will I drum my nails on the table in time with the horse hooves beating on my ribs? Will I move pieces of me on the board? Do I eat you? Do you eat me? Is it about pretending what isn't yours is yours? Will we be rivals, enemies, companions? Will we gain money, trophies, respect? What will we lose? Our lives, an opportunity, our honor, power of speech, time, luck. What will we lose?
Gracias, Claire. Me parece que sueno mejor en inglés. Vale. Este puede ser un buen lugar para esconder la vida que nunca tendremos. No llegaremos más lejos ni más cerca. Aquí, donde yo tengo el control de lo que sucede y no cabe la decepción. Un espacio que puede expandirse o plegarse como una tela elástica o el universo. Que puede ser por igual atillo o vestido, como la diferencia entre la palma de tu mano abierta y un puño. Cuando te miro se me enredan hebras en los tobillos. Puedo levantarme y cerrar esa puerta, o quedarme donde estoy y pedirte que la cierres. ¿Se me escucha? Sí, vale.
This can be a good place to hide, the life we'll never have. We won't get any further or closer here, where I'm in control of events and there's no room for disappointment. A space that can expand or retract like stretch fabric or the universe, which can be either a bundle or a garment, like the difference between the open palm of your hand and a fist. When I look at you, threads enmesh my ankles. I can get up and close that door, or stay here and ask you to close it.
Detesto las imprecisiones. Cuando dices todo el tiempo, en realidad deberías decir en ocasiones. Detesto aún más la ligereza con la que usas ciertas palabras. Cómo construyes frases enteras, sin cimientos. Cuando dices, todo tiene más sentido a tu lado, siento ganas de hacerte daño, físicamente.
I hate imprecision. When you say all the time what you should say is occasionally. I hate even more how loosely you use certain words, how you build whole sentences on air. When you say everything has more meaning by your side, I feel like punching you.
Para lugares comunes, hablemos, por ejemplo, del olor de la lluvia en los días de verano. Al menos es algo que puede experimentarse, aunque tampoco sea exacto. No es la lluvia lo que huele, es el asfalto mojado, los árboles plantados en las aceras y la tierra bajo las aceras, el cemento de las fachadas, la madera barnizada de los bancos y el nylon barato de nuestros paraguas. No es la lluvia, es lo mojado que llueve, que huele. Nosotros a la intemperie.
As for commonplaces, let's talk about, say, the scent of rain on summer days. At least that's something sensory if somehow wrong. The rain has no scent. It's the wet tarmac, the trees planted in the pavement, and the earth beneath the pavement, the concrete house fronts, the polished wooden benches, and the cheap nylon of our umbrellas. It isn't the rain that smells, it's wet things. The two of us lashed by the rain.
Gracias, Claire. Thank you, Claire.
A terrific poem. Thank you very much, both of you.
Absolutely fantastic. I think that everyone will agree that it's been a beautiful evening full of poetry, different styles, really food for thought on some of the concerns that we've seen expressed in this poetry, but above all, to have you all here reading for us and accompanied by, English poets who've made this wonderful effort to come and join us for, a good 2 hours of an evening. It's been absolutely wonderful. I know that we were aiming to keep this within 2 hours, so we've got 2 minutes in case someone would like to ask anything. Obviously, this is an unparalleled opportunity for anyone to ask anything to the poets, to Terence as translator. So if you want to leave a question in the chat, we are keeping an eye on it. If you want to just raise your hand, it's completely up to you. So it's your opportunity. I see that we've got a comment in the chat. Thanks to all the poets, readers, organizers on Terry fabulous evening. So this echoes all our thoughts. I don't know if any of the poets would like to say anything in English or in Spanish. Si queréis añadir algo, algunas de las poetas. O quizá Terence. Elena. ¿Querías decir algo? No, vale, perdona.
I just thought it was such a great evening. I hope we can do it again sometime. There ought to be a second anthology where we can all come back and celebrate again. Anyway, thank you so much.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. So, more comments there. Qué fenomenal. Gracias a todos. Muchas gracias por todas las lecturas. Ha sido una experiencia muy bonita escucharlos de voz de las poetas y en ambos idiomas. So I think that this very much echoes what we've been saying. Ha estado fantástico. Muchas gracias. So I think this marks the end of our evening. Thank you so very much for joining us, especially to the Cervantes, because even though we find ourselves in these horrible circumstances of not being able to meet face to face, I think this has played in our favor, actually, allowing us all to meet here. So, Pedro, I don't know if you want to say anything. I'll just shut up. think Pedro's connection is being a bit funny.
Thank you very much. It was really great. Was a great pleasure. That was the first poetry event that I am participating as new director in Manchester, and that's really wonderful. Thank you to all. That's really something very emotional and very, very deep. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And we'll definitely be looking forward to the second volume. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.